finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
You blow my mind. And we haven't even started yet.
Yeah, no, I know.
All right. Truth bomb this week, Tim. What's on your mind?
Divide and conquer. You know, everyone talks about how we're so divided. And part of me says yes, and part of me calls BS on it. And this is why. The part of me that says yes is if you suck on the electric nipple of social media and cable news, the impression you'll get is that everyone is really divided. And the reason you'll get that is because that is what sells. So I have started, when I look at feeds on X or Facebook, Instagram, and it pisses me off, even if I agree with the guy that's posting it most of the time, I just scroll away now because I know that the intent from a viewership perspective is to produce an emotional response. And that's unhelpful because what it does, and what we've seen this, especially, in the last 3 years, is it leaves people in this kind of continuous state of anger and fear, or AF, anger and fear. And so we're, scared of the virus, or we're scared of terrorism, or we're scared of and each side has it, right? Like your absolute risk of being killed by a terrorist in the United States in the last 20 years is like you had a higher risk of being struck by lightning twice in one day. Like it just didn't exist. It was almost zero, but it wasn't zero. So there was this huge amount of outrage and trillions of dollars spent on wars and surveillance. And guess what? That was a Republican that did that started that. Guess how that ends? It ends with less freedom for you and more money for the massive, war machine, pharma machine, whatever. Like that's how it is. So then you switch back, and we see what happened through the COVID, and that tends to be a left-wing cause, the masking and the vaxes and the whatever. Well, what happens? The R's are pissed off at the D's, the Reds are pissed off at the Blues because they're not masking and they're going to kill grandma and all. And it was all bullshit. It was weapons of mass destruction, just like the Iraq war, that didn't exist. It was just all made up bullshit. But boy, did we get exercised. I remember doing mental gymnastics because of my political side, trying to make, a rational argument for invading another country that didn't attack us. It was actually Saudi Arabian people that did 9/11. And you sit there and you go, wow. Because if I'm in a state of anxiety or anger and fear all the time, then, I got to stick to my tribal side because it's safe inside the tribe. You know what? It's not. So there's that side. The other side that I see, which is super encouraging and very fascinating, is just meeting normal people. And this last trip that May and I took, kind of house hunting and me getting a Florida license and whatnot, was super fascinating because we bumped into people from all over the United States because, rightly so, no one's from Florida, right? They just moved there. And, I had a conversation with a guy for probably half an hour. I think it was in Crate and Barrel, which I'm embarrassed to say I was actually in Crate and Barrel. And he was just a delightful guy. And he was from Chicago. And, he kind of let on that he was more left than right. And, he had some little issues with that. But he still loved Florida. And he was a normal guy. And we agreed on probably 95% of any part of the conversation. And he was a nice guy. So if we go away from the fake narratives and the fake conversations, the Rachel Maddow versus Sean Hannity, and I would love to see that as a cage match. That would be absolutely amazing. Or maybe Anderson Cooper takes Hannity on. That would be wild.
No, Rachel. I pick
So,
Rachel.
when you get into those camps like that, it's so unbelievably destructive. It's destructive for your health. It's destructive for your mood. And it's absolutely destructive for the country. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't fight for your side. And it doesn't mean that you don't fight for justice and whatever it is. But we have to be able to dialogue about this stuff. And we have to be able to disagree. We have to be able to disagree entirely and still be friends. There's zero reason why that can't be the case. Like, why?
Because they don't model that. What you see is riled anger that they want you to turn into, use it as energy for the cause. But yet, ultimately, like you said, when you meet people one-on-one and you have a normal conversation and you have differences, usually you can agree to disagree. Very rarely does it escalate to the point where you're shouting at each other obscenities and hate.
Yeah, but it's easy to tweet that.
But it is. It's easy to tweet it. It's easier to like do it when you're watching the mainstream media or you're reading a newspaper article.
Or when you've had 4 gin and tonic.
Exactly. But when you meet people where they're at one-on-one in their real life and you get to know them pretty quickly in a short conversation as far as their heart, it's so different.
Have you heard of hyperbaric therapy?
If you want better circulation, oxygenation, or respiration,
turn up the volume.
Everyone appreciates the increased energy and clarity.
Athletes say goodbye to those PRs because you're going to blast
So
them.
how does it work?
We load your body with oxygen.
That means
less inflammation,
fewer allergies,
faster healing, and more.
Come see us, 1200 Executive Parkway.
You know, the Upside Down building.
Call us, 541-636-3278.
That's 541-636-3278.
We have some incredible deals.
Heal, build, and thrive
with New Leaf Hyperbarics.
Got air?
Well, and people have different beliefs than me because they have different life than me. Like, that's okay.
Right. But what I'm saying
and
is
I can still,
the way to do it isn't just to sit there and pick your team and get riled up and go for your cause. I think it really is. I mean, you have to have your beliefs, but you have to have conversations with everybody that are polite and respectful, share your opinions, and know that, it's not all about winning the conversation, but listening to each other and being heard and hearing them.
Yeah, that's the key. It's just like being married. And boy, oh boy, this was not a lesson that was easy to learn. It's not about winning the argument. It's about hearing the other side. That's really what it's about. Now, if somebody comes up to me and says that kids should get cross-sex hormones and they should get their genitals cut off and whatever the case may be, I'm going to violently disagree. Not violently as in physical violence, but I mean, I will not budge on that. But to listen to where they're coming from, I think is still very powerful. And if you actually want to convince somebody that you're correct, you're not going to do it by beating them over the head.
That's my point.
Yeah, with a hammer. Like, it's going to be because they trust you, because emotionally you got your crap together and you're listening. You're not just trying to be heard. And that is, I mean, I sucked at that. And I still probably suck at it pretty bad. I suck at it less now than I did 15 years ago. But this idea of just trying to browbeat because you're right, it doesn't work. And I just have the best example of what works and what doesn't. And it's real estate. So May and I have been to timeshare presentations more times than I want to admit, but they are very interesting. And then we have also dealt, because we've sold a bunch of real estate and now we're going to buy some. And the difference between a good real estate agent and a timeshare salesman couldn't be more different than somebody speaking Chinese and somebody speaking the Queen's English. Like, they can't, it's what one person, the product. Like I've told timeshare guys, I said, if your product is so good, you shouldn't have to convince me. Like the guy when you go into the reason Jay Leno doesn't have a Ferrari is because the Ferrari guys don't sell Ferraris. They take applications to buy one. And he's like, I'm not waiting 6 months for a car when I can call up Lamborghini or whatever, and they'll just give me their stuff because they want me to feature it. And I pay for it, but it's there. And because guess what? When it's Ferrari, they don't care. Get in line like everyone else. And, the way you get to the front, how you get to the front of the line buying a Ferrari?
I
if
would
you
have no idea.
if you already own one.
Yeah.
So if you've already been through it, then you go to the front of the line because they're so good and the demand is so high, they don't have to sell them. And so we just had an experience with our real estate agent in Florida, and it was absolutely amazing because she is telling us every reason why we shouldn't buy every single house we're in. This is what you have to watch for. This is where there's going to be a problem. And I'm sitting there going, wow, I trust this person because she actually understands all of the legal aspects, how it changes in different counties, how the tax structures change. Well, that's kind of important because 6 months from now, when you're paying the bill, it would have been nice to know that, right? Whereas, the timeshare guy is just sitting there pounding and pounding. And I'm like, you guys, you're destroying your brand when you have to sell like that. And I guess it works because
Well, it's always, how can you afford not to do this? Which drives me nuts.
well, I can afford not to do it very easily, just not paying you and leaving. So, and the divide and conquer is it's a marketing strategy that we all get sucked into. And those guys are way smarter than most of us in marketing. Like, it's just, they've honed this to an absolute skill.
So where do we go from here?
Where we go from here is we're going to try to do, I'm going to try to do this. We are going to try to do this on every Truth Bomb now, is bring it back to like the personal side. And I have been this guy. I'm getting better, but I have absolutely been this guy, just kind of the pissed off at the world guy all the time. And in this world where they're trying to divide us to make us a pawn or a political tool or sell us shit, if you're pissed off all the time because of the other side or the state of the country or the whatever, you're the problem. And so think about that. If I have expunged joy from my life because I watch the news all the time, or I'm on social media all the time and getting exercised about it, that's like, how's that different than a drug addiction? Like, it's just not. Like, you're letting an algorithm steal your peace because you're righteously right, and you might be, but it's not worth losing your peace over it. It's like Brant Hansen said when we interviewed him. It's like, you fight more effectively for justice when it's justice and compassion that are motivating you, not anger.
Perfectly said. I love it.
So I'm done.
And on that note, bombs away.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit, uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
Well, we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible. We can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.